Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series, Love in Savitri, with our beloved Alok. In this series, we go through Savitri, and we ask for the divine to illumine us as to all these lines that have the word Savitri, love. So we are going to be on page 12, and I'll read a few lines and we'll come to the word love. A colloquy of the original gods, meeting upon the borders of the unknown, her souls debate with embodied nothingness, must be wrestled out on a dangerous, dim background. Her being must confront its formless cause. Against the universe, weigh its single self. On the bare peak, where self is alone with naught, and life has no sense, and love no place to stand, she must plead her case upon extinction's verge. In the world's death cave, uphold life's helpless claim and vindicate her right to be and love. So we have love two times within 4 lines.
So this is a very interesting phrase, colloquy of the original gods. So this refers to the story of Rig Veda, where creation has plunged into utter nothingness, into the dense inconscience. And to rescue creation, there is the plunge of the gods, but gods cannot go there. So Varuna first sees where it could be, and Soma and Agni, they travel together. And then along with them, there is a portion of the Divine Mother which goes, which is the leader of that march. That portion is love. That's why Mother says love is the savior. And all these original gods, of course, Agni we know is the divine will, which must compel things. Varuna is vastness, but he says that there is the hidden fount of consciousness. And along with that, Soma or Ananda. So Anand and Agni, that is the divine will in creation and the delight and will to be. So they accompany, and leading them is love. And these gods must convince the inconscient, if you may use a human language, to release the consciousness which is hidden or trapped inside us. Now this is revealed in various stories also in the Rig Vedas, death cave, all these are there. Images wherein the Asuras have hidden the cows of light into the caves, and there the goddess Sarma of intuition, she goes there and pleads the case. But here obviously it is referring to love, which is the savior. Mother has said, if it is true that consciousness has built this universe, but love is the savior.
Yes.
So she goes there and she must plead with whom and where and for what. So she must plead a case where love is not given a foothold to stand. So it is the place where all that is highest, divine, everything is as if enveloped into its complete opposite. So the moment love enters, it turns into hate, distrust, and all that we can conceive of it. Life changes into death, and consciousness into unconsciousness, truth into falsehood. So there is no space where the moment it touches that ground, that's the battle. That's why it's a wrestle. And the second interesting word is embodied nothingness. So there are two nothingnesses that we know. One is the state which is above, which is called as nothing only because it doesn't correspond to anything that we can conceive of.
And we can't even name it.
We can't even name it. So that's Yagnavalk's nothingness. But actually it is everythingness, if you may say so. But there it is all conscious. The one who is hidden in it is fully conscious and aware of himself. But from this end, when we approach, it doesn't correspond to any definition, any experience, any cognitive state, any perception. So it's called as neti neti. So it's nothingness. But as if its shadow, there is on this other pole another nothingness. This nothingness also contains everything in it, but all concealed in a state of unconsciousness. So this is the nothingness. So basically, it's very interesting about death. There is a very interesting experience of the mother in the agenda. And several places he says, let me share that little story where, New Age Association, the children used to, Kishore Gandhi had started. So children would be given a topic at the end of their knowledge, and knowledge means the class knowledge. So they will write on that subject their own impressions. Then mother would correct it. So there was once a topic of what is death. So each one wrote according to their own understanding, and mother's answers are there. It's there in collected works of Mother, Volume 12, New Age Association. You will see this one of the subjects. Very interesting. At the end, mother says, in fact, there is no death. And it's so logical because nothing can die in the sense that it is finished. Universe doesn't function like that. Where will it finish? If it finishes, where will it go? So it will change its form. That's all that can happen. Even a form that disintegrates feeds other forms.
That's what Sri Aurobindo says.
Exactly.
Yes.
The form that dies feeds other forms. And if you leave it, let's say in the jungle when an animal dies, or by some misfortune, any human being, anybody, you will see that first the bigger animals will come, then the birds will come, then the maggots come, then the ants come. Ultimately, everything comes. And the bones, they get slowly over thousands of years, they get dispersed into the soil. So there is nothing like death in the real sense. What happens to the information, to the experiences, they go into the energy body, etheric body, call it whatever, subtle bodies, different names and different traditions. And then there is something else which anyways survives as an entity. It doesn't decompose and it returns back, which is the immortal soul. So at one level, death doesn't exist. So the mother explains that why it has assumed this form. We have all given a form to death. So these forms that we have given are the additions of the human consciousness. Just like we give forms to heaven and hell. So there is a whole description in the Life Divine that some of these, most of these, heavens and hell, are the product of, because human mind and its imagination is very creative. So we have built forms by collective imagination. And they are very real in that domain. Like we think imagination is imagination, but it's a power of formation. And these formations in their own domain exist. So there is that story of Vishwamitra who by the power of his imagination creates a parallel heaven in which Trishanku goes. How does he create? Because of his tapasya, he has such a powerful imagination that he does it. There is a counter story also in one of the Asuras, I think it was Jalandhar or someone, who builds a whole abode of Shiva by his imagination. And he tries to trap none else but Mother Parvati there, that look here, this is your original Kailash. But she says, but where is Shiva? It doesn't, because there is something you cannot conceive and imagine there. So everything else he does, picture perfect. But Shiva is missing. That, ultimate reality you cannot conjure. Even in greater life it comes. So we have, by our own imaginations of fear, of terror, we have conceived of death as something which is terrible. And then it has effects on the human consciousness. So every time we hear about death, oh, such a sad thing, he died. Now every time we do that, we are fattening this fellow. That's how the mother says, we are feeding him.
We see in the obituary, sad demise.
Sad demise. So she says the halabalu that human beings make of death is largely an ignorance.
Yes.
It's not largely, it is an ignorance. And she says, there are several examples where she says, how do I tell this human being? Later on she says that he had come, somebody had died. How do I explain to them Because they don't see what I am seeing. There is a story like that even in the ancient Indian tradition of Bhagavad. So there is the story of a king and queen, and their young son dies. So they are very sad and distressed. They go to Narad the sage and they say, we are missing our child. What do I do? He says, okay. By his heavenly powers, he draws the soul nearby. He says, that's your child, you can speak to him. And the son refuses to recognize. He says, who are you? I don't recognize you. So all this idea of parent, all this is formation which vanishes. Even Sri Aurobindo says all our surface personality, its habitual reactions, its habitual movements, mechanical thoughts, patterns of life, mechanical feelings which arise because of simply habitual ways we have learned, they are all left behind.
And we see when this child asks mother, what will Beethoven come back as?
Yes.
And mother says, perhaps a shoemaker. It's just approaching the problem from a different angle.
Even we have here, Chandulal, we know that when he died, and he died in a strange way because it seems mother had advised him not to go for surgery, but he went for surgery. And he used to have this out-of-body experience. He went out of the body. They declared him dead. And they rushed his body to the fire. And then he realized, and then he came to mother and said, Mother, I am dead, I am dead. Said, don't worry, just stay. I'll give you a new body. And he stayed on for some time in her atmosphere. Then she gave him a new body. That new person is here in the ashram. So that is how, he came back. She created a new body, and then when there was a body which was appropriate for him, she gave. Yeah. So, but we don't see this whole process. So we make a, big to do about death. So it is embodied nothingness. But then come...
Yes. Well, we see that on this bare peak, where self, capital S, is alone with naught, capital N.
Yes.
And life has no sense there, and love no place to stand. Savitri has to plead her case upon this verge of extinction.
So this is because, see, this is very interesting. Two places where she pleads. This is where in the den of death, she has to convince. So victories which are not won entering into the den of death will not, really speaking, resolve the real issue. This is one of the works of Sri Aurobindo. Because otherwise, as mother says, Durga every year when she comes, she drives the demons back into their homes. So they can stay. It is a cosmic order. You cannot upset it because they have their own work. They have their own place in the cosmic scheme or grand scheme of things. So what she does is, she drives them back into their holes. After that, you don't touch, you are there. If they try to come out and create chaos by entering into human minds beyond a point, poisoning it, trying to enter and corrupt the files of the gods, so then she intervenes and drives them. But this time, the mother and Sri Aurobindo want the radical solution. So for radical solution, you have to go to the roots. It's like when white ants, come to a place. You just can't kill a few bunch of ants here and few there. You have to find the mother queen. And then you have to kill her there. I mean, there are ways and means through which they have to really inject those things. And then if she dies, then you are safe. So she has to plead. So it is not just about her own case. It is from there. There is that kind of sanction which human beings have given to the idea of death. And it has fed on that. And it continues to take his pound of flesh, like, old time or new time dawns, whom we have given strength by believing in their power. And when they come, we say, yeah, we have to give. Now, every person who gives, it becomes a habit. And ultimately, you have to go there, where right to its very origin. And that's where Mother and Sri Aurobindo went. We see that in their experiences.
So, Savitri has to plead her case in the world's death cave. She has to uphold life's helpless claim and vindicate her right to be and love.
Yes.
Even Savitri has to do this.
Yes, she's the avatar, so she has to do it for all of us. Just to be, because the gospel of death is there is nothing like existence. You see, that is the gospel of death. Nothing really exists. So, existence itself it falsifies. And it can do it as long as we identify existence with our physical or even our mental existence. So it can say that it doesn't exist, especially the physical existence, because matter is that form is emerging from there. So it speaks about, her being must confront its formless cause. And against the universe weighed single self, the whole universe, it seems, believes in this. Mothers, when we read the agenda, she speaks about collective suggestions. She says, nobody believes in what I am saying or doing. So everybody seems to believe in death, the reality of death. And therefore, it's this whole universe as if is on that side. And here is Savitri who must be alone, stand up for mankind, the world unknowing, for the world she stood, and plead the case to be, yes, I am. Even in your death cave I exist.
Yes.
And right to love. Now this love means, now it's very interesting. Why to be and live? Why not to be and live? Being itself is life, is living. If you are conscious of being, so not the way we understand life. So that is understood. Why love? Because the moment you have the right to love, you rescue the universe. Whole universe is tied with the thread of love, not with the internet wiring. Internet is wiring only our minds. But the creation, not just a few countries, creation is tied with these strands of love. That's why you see, if you look at creation from the larger picture, always it is beautiful. Yes. Even when you see these planets whirling, whizzing past, there is a kind of harmony which is constantly emerging, and new things which emerge and they go back. It's an amazing picture I have seen. One of the examples which I give every day when I go to my office, so there is this wonderful lady who works. She has she puts on the computer one of those wall pictures. I mean, for computer thing, one of those photographs from some place. Sometimes it's Antarctica, sometimes Canada, sometimes lovely place in Iceland or India, different places. And every time we have developed this understanding, I say, yes, this is how it looks from the top. You go near it, it'll give a very different picture. So you see, when you look at thing from afar and with a total vision, it is so beautiful and harmonious. It looks like an artist par excellence has made it. The other day we were seeing a serpentine river in one of the places. It's amazing. I mean, how could such a river be created? It's not a path made by man. It's a river. So I said, yes, but if you are right there, you will just see a little patch of water. Because you can't see, behold. So we lose the harmony when we get too near and too close. That's how the ego misses the harmony of things. Because it is too much closed within a small chamber.
I think the astronauts really broke through.
Yes.
When they defied gravity.
Yes.
By being in upper space and looked down on this marvelous globe.
Yes, it's a very humbling experience, unifying experience. That look, all earth is one, it's beautiful, it's blue, its ocean reflection is so beautiful. But when you come close, it's a different picture. So while both are required for the supramental, because that's how, but this larger picture is always of that love which is throbbing in the universe. And with this power, we must go there, and that's how.
Yes.
That, vindicate her right to be and love.
I'm going to continue a little bit because the last line will lead us into page 13, where we find love again.
Yes.
Altered must be nature's harsh economy. Acquittance she must win from her past's bond, an old account of suffering exhaust, strike out from time the soul's long compound debt, and the heavy servitudes of the karmic gods, the slow revenge of unforgiving law, and the deep need of universal pain and hard sacrifice and tragic consequence.
So this is where we see that there is, Sri Aurobindo describes this, the way the law of karma is understood and the way we have given credence to it. Nature's harsh economy. Why is it harsh? When it breaks. And when we look at the law of karma as it is understood today, that for every error and so-called sin, there is a retribution, a judgment and punishment. And frankly, if this law would be true, the way it is projected, there is a karmic law, but the way it is projected as, punishment, and then there would be no hope of progress. Human nature is full of follies, and so-called goodness and things like that are rather. there is a beautiful poem of Sri Aurobindo, where he says, describing man, his many evil deeds and a few good deeds. It's really an exception, because after all, much of humanity lives by the sense of selfishness. And there is no other sin than selfishness and meanness. Sri Aurobindo speaks of that. That selfishness and meanness are the only sins I find difficult to pardon. And yet they are universal, therefore they too must be pardoned.
Yes.
And courage and love are the only true virtues. They alone can save the soul alive. So the karmic law, as it is said, expressed, it would be a very, very slow process of evolution, if at all, because the learning takes place through a long, long stadia of many lives. So it's very harsh, because through that period you have to go through so much of pain. Once someone had asked me that why Sri Aurobindo wants to, hasten the evolution. Anyways, it will take place. That's true.
Nature tells Mother that.
Yes.
I have a million years.
But then just imagine, it looks very easy, million years. But just imagine, coming back every life, carrying that heavy school bag or iPads and going to school, learning the whole thing over and over again, starting as if from scratch, going through all the challenges of the physical problems, this problem, that problem, because that's how life is. We breathe poison. And there cannot be an individual life which will be completely secure. Odd cases apart. So just imagine going through it hundreds of times. So it's a very harsh economy. And this harsh economy reminds me of old time. Those who used to, money lenders. How money lenders used to work. So money lender, you go and you are desperately, this is the harsh economy, you are desperately in need of money. So he says, okay, I'll give you 1 lakh rupees at 20% interest. And if you're desperate, you pick it, you take that money. Now what happens? Every month you have to give 20% interest. And of course the principal is already there. Now most people, when they started paying, they realized that in their lifetime they cannot exhaust even the interest. Because they have to give 20,000 rupees every month. And then many of them give 18% like that. It's very common. So 20% means 20,000. Plus from the principal little bit you have to give. And people realize that, you can never really pay it. So at the end, they realize that 1 lakh rupees that they have taken, they've gone on to pay 10 lakhs and yet they have not cleared this debt. So that's called harsh economy.
I want to touch on the karmic laws. Sri Aurobindo speaks eloquently on karma, and he says almost all karma can be dissolved, except utkata karma. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, so But okay, we'll talk about how they can be dissolved, but before. So there are three types of karma. This from the Indian thought. So there is Sanchit karma, there is Prarabdha karma, and there is Utkat karma. So Prarabdha karma is things which you have gathered in your previous lives. It's your account, which now when somebody takes a life, comes into a new birth. So out of its prarabdha, it says, okay, something I will take to pay or resolve. So certain issues unresolved, it comes and exhausts them in one particular life. Not all of it. So prarabdha is a whole huge store. Sanchit is what you are accumulating now. So along with the prarabdha which you have to exhaust, you have now carried by your own karma in this life, which becomes sanchit karma. You are accumulating it. Now this is your account of karma, good or bad, that's a different thing altogether. Now these can be balanced, because there is compassion, there are other elements. By your own purusharth you can dissolve. Supposing you had a good amount of bad karmic stock, you have to resolve it. But in this life, if you do some good karmas, you accumulate some good karmas, you are resolving much of this prarabdha karma. So this way prarabdha and sanchit work together. But there is a kind of karma for which just your purusharth and action is not enough, because it's so deeply embedded in your consciousness that it's not easy to wipe it. Now that is called utkat karma. You can't cut it off except over many lives. Now, some people say 7 lives, some say at least 3 lives. And there are only 2 karmas which are utkat karma, fortunately. Or unfortunately. One is suicide.
That's what I felt, yes.
One is suicide. It's an utkat karma. Even Isha Upanishad, 18 slokas, one of them is based on this. Asurya nam te loka. They who are slayers of their self. So one of the interpretations is, because why it is so? Because what is really karma? Karma is a evolutionary mechanism which unfolds through life. Now, a very ancient wisdom said, which is so beautiful, and I have realized it that this is a good way to look at it. Destiny gives you certain things, good or bad, and you may like it, you may not like it. Accept it as a grace and go through it. Go through it doesn't mean helplessly. Do what you have to do. But don't. Some people try to find shortcuts. So if they are unhappy with something, they try to find a shortcut. No, it will chase you like a snake behind your heels. Because it's not about an event or circumstance, a certain karma, something you have to learn. You have not learned. So it will chase you. It will take another form and another way it will come. So go through that. Whatever you have gone through, that's why in the ancient Indian wisdom and life which was organized around that, people received that this is mera bhagya hai. This is what my destiny is. I accept it, and they did their best, through it. Because this is the way you dissolve that destiny. Now what somebody does, you have got a difficult situation. You don't want to face it. Actually, if you faced it, that's how you are going to dissolve this karma. But you refuse to face it. So what the person does, he believes in the shortcut, shortest cut. There are other shortcuts which are, bad enough. I'm not happy in this, so let me find ways and means of pleasure. Now this is dangerous because you are accumulating more dark states of consciousness. Go through it. You may not be happy in a given situation. Learn ways and means to recover your inner happiness, to grow in the right attitude, etc. But if you find shortcuts for pleasure, life will not spare. But when you try to cut short the thread by taking your life, then what you have done, there was a curve through which your working of the karma was planned. You have done something which recoils against the entire machinery of the gods. They have woven for you a life through which you can dissolve the problem, mitigate it at least. Now you have tried to be smart. Of course, person who does it doesn't say I am being smart, but believes that I'll escape it. Now when you come back, you face it under much more difficult circumstances. Because now you have to resolve that problem in shorter time, because essentially the journey is through time. You are not allowed, okay? It's like somebody who is doing a PhD in 5 years. I know this is a real example. 4 years you are enjoying yoga, I am getting, stipend. Now what happens in fifth year? You have to put in 10 times more effort. So the difficulty mounts and you have to sometimes face it. The other karma which is very dangerous is murdering someone. Now here it is not about killing in war or combat, which is a Kshatriya dharma, where the gates of heaven. That's why always we'll see that in all traditions, whether it's Western or Indian, it is said that when you die fighting for a noble cause, you actually enter into the kingdom of heaven. The gates are open. It's there in every tradition. In Islam, of course, they have messed it up. Yes, die means blow up yourself and blow up people. Then that becomes a murder. And murder is an utkat karma. You can't escape it readily because you have killed people innocently, mercilessly, as an act of courage. So there was a dharma even of killing in the ancient Indian Kshatriya discipline. Because if you don't kill in a fair combat, you are actually doing something which is not good for you. So the real thing was not about dying or winning the combat, but to fighting it in the right way, in the noble way. That's why we see Mahabharata is unique scripture where there are dilemmas like that. Even in Ramayana we have these dilemmas. So Utkat karma is when you murder, you kill for very obviously personal gain. So these are the two Utkat karmas. And they are very difficult to dissolve in mother's context. And that's where we come to resolving the karma. She says, but my child, grace can completely cancel karma. So there are, she says sometimes just an aspiration is enough. Sometimes she says just faith is enough. And it can dissolve karma. And she gives the example, of course, we know whom we are speaking about, somebody who had committed suicide. Both of them had committed suicide.
Right.
And yes, the grace comes and it dissolves that karma. So grace can do it. So this long, harsh economy now when we connect, it is like we have accumulated a lot of debt, interest from the lender of forms. Who is that? Mr. Death. Inconscient. He says, I am the one who has built the form. I will make my own rules. You are in my country. So you are caught trapped in that, land governed by Mrityu, death. So he has made his rules. Whatever is based on form, I am going to demolish it. I don't care about your formless state. So it demolishes. But to let us live for some time, it is heavy taxation. That's tax of night. So you have to live in this body, let's say for 100 years. You have to pay the tax of, various rules of life. You have to follow them for food, for living, for exercise, and still you have to pay the taxes, illness, suffering of various kinds. But, and that's where the beauty is, but if the divine grace is with you, now it pays the debt of man from her pocket. So she pays on our behalf because we can never pay it. Thus is the debt paid, wiped off the original score. That's how the path can be opened.
The great and dolorous moment now was close. A mailed battalion marching to its doom, the last long days went by with heavy tramp. Long, but too soon to pass, too near the end. Alone, amid the many faces loved, aware, among unknowing, happy hearts, her armored spirit kept watch upon the hours, listening for a foreseen, tremendous step in the closed beauty of the inhuman wilds.
So you see here we have entirely, many of these are military terms.
Yes.
And a mailed battalion marching to its doom. Many people may not be aware. When Kargil happened in the Indian context, these things have happened elsewhere also. But when Kargil happened, so they didn't know the political establishment what is to be done, because it was a grave error. Intelligence failed, everything failed. How could people from another country could come and occupy the peaks? Now, when you are at the peaks, you are a sitting duck. So they gave marching orders. You have to occupy. Army is like that. Now they knew that this is an impossible venture. Because when you are climbing up the slopes, there are people sitting there. That's why it is called as sitting ducks. You can throw stones and kill. You don't need ammunition and artillery. And if you fire from here, the fire won't reach. So it's an impossible situation. There are some companies which got completely killed in the process. Then they had to revise a strategy. Even today I was reading in Sri Lanka something similar happened, that a whole Sikh battalion had gone and some 30 soldiers, they were paratrooped and they made very good strategy, but they didn't know what these people are capable of. The entire thing, when they dropped and they were supposed to bring in reinforcement, and the last message they got us, they say booby trap, because they were with heavy machine gun and everything, they never imagined. So they sent a message back, one of the soldiers. So the reinforcement never came because they knew that it's an impossible state. We have to plan it well. These 30 soldiers knew they are going to die. And they faced that combat. Only one eventually was caught, eventually left. So he told the whole story. How they fought and how. So this is the mailed battalion marching to his dome. But which is the mailed battalion? It is the days which are going days and nights are going towards that day when she is going to die. And then who is she? She is leading that. Now that comes later on.
So we have the word mailed.
Yes.
Mailed is in a uniform that was very popular in the early years in King Arthur's days, when you had the big helmets, you had the mail covering you, body and legs. So it's a mail battalion that is marching to its doom. And then the word tramp, the heavy days. The days went by with heavy tramp.
So when the mailed battalion, the days and nights and the moments, dolorous moment, they are marching, they get tired over a period of time. So, the heavy tramp of the last few days.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we have her armored spirit again.
Yes.
Armored spirit.
Now comes, who is she? While this mailed battalion is marching to its doom, there is one warrior who is going to take on the engines of the universe. Now look at this epic.
Yes.
Of courage and hope and dare.
Yes.
Her armored spirit, yes.
A combatant in silent, dreadful lists. The world unknowing, for the world she stood. No helper had she, save the strength within. There was no witness of terrestrial eyes. The gods above and nature's soul below were the spectators of that mighty strife.
So this again continuing the description of the military, the commandos. Now when these commandos who are the most trained ones, dreadful list, people often don't know that such kind of battalions or this exist, group of people. They are called when there is a very high danger, high end risk operation. But it's very interesting. When they enter the enemy territory, supposing they die, the government doesn't claim them. Because you can't say that, we send people in your territory. So they have to go in this way that, if we die, we are there forever. So this is the whole, it's a very beautiful, her armored spirit kept watch upon the hours, listening for a foreseen tremendous step. In the closed beauty of the inhuman wilds, a combatant in silent dreadfulness. Nobody knew. There are, like even, let's say, during the Second World War, who knew that Mother and Sri Aurobindo are fighting the war? Everybody knew that there are soldiers, there are generals who are doing it. But from here, so silent, they were actually entering that formations, what they were doing into those war formations. Those plannings taking place in the giant creative studio of death by the children of falsehood and division. They were entering into those domains. And Mother at one place says that at one point, is a very interesting story. This, somebody came and told the mother about that there one boy was, found missing. He was missing actually. So they tried to locate him, but nobody could find. And that time, some kind of these people were there. I am also aware there was a belt in Maharashtra where they would come with something to eat, and then you take it, and then you don't know what happens to you next. I myself dealt with a couple of cases like that. Then for a few days you are missing, so they either turn you into a kind of a cheap labor or things like that. And they steal you, of course. So sometimes they just leave you. And suddenly you discover yourself absolutely in a fugue state. So this boy was missing. So they tried everything, and then they prayed to the mother, this family. So the mother says she concentrated, and after all, where is this boy? And Durga came. And with a lance, she saw that there was a whole dark formation, very terrible, very Asuric and Rakshasic. And she pierced that cloud and it dispersed completely. So next day that boy was found and the bandits were caught. But bandits are caught, the boy is found, Durga is intervened. But now what happened, this formation, the being behind the formation, she says was a very, very dark Rakshasa and Asura. He attacked the mother, he knew that where it has come from. So he didn't care about the police and all. He attacked, she says, it came straight and attacked her. So she had a little bit of nausea that day, and she says, it was laughing, she says, he knew where the whole thing has come from and he tries to attack. So there are battles which are fought behind the battle, which we don't know. So she is that kind of combatant. That there are, based on her victory, this side or that side will win the war.
Yeah.
So that's how it is. She's the combatant.
It even happened where, well, first of all, Churchill was aware
Yes,
that there was
A
some
power.
force behind him,
absolutely.
even speaking through him.
Yes. Even Sri Aurobindo's fracture was part of that.
Yes.
They knew that here is the danger. They can be annihilated from there. So the first thing as the war started, if you see the date around that time, when the clouds were already looming and Sri Aurobindo was aware that this is going to happen, and their concentration, when world didn't know about all this at that point of time, then they attacked Sri Aurobindo and managed to, because he never knew that they would dare such a thing. And she says, he was busy protecting the mother.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
I was protecting mother.
And they hit him, and that's how he fell, because these were terrible forces. I mean, the darkest that we can ever imagine. So this is a story which is equivalent to what we read in the Ramayana of Rama and Lakshmana being, suddenly struck by Nagpash or these kind of powers and forces. And nobody knew. So the world unknowing, for the world she stood. Nobody knew. People even now, they would doubt, they will have all kinds of their own story. So, no helper had she save the strength within. There was no witness of terrestrial eyes. The gods above and nature, soul below were the spectators of that mighty strife.
And then he gives this beautiful description of the earth. But I want to move on a little bit to the next page, where we find here again.
Page 14.
Page 14, yes.
Yes.
Because this has always been so powerful for me.
Yes.
Beginning with the line, here with the suddenness divine advents have, repeating the marvel of the first descent, changing to rapture the dull earthly round, love came to her, hiding the shadow death. Well,
Death
when
couldn't
love
have
comes,
approached
Yes.
otherwise. So,
but only Savitri can hold death,
only
hold
Savitri can
love.
hold, yes.
No-
So it has
nothing in the
come.
world, yes.
It has come to her hiding behind something which she would invariably she would receive and accept. See, there is there are very interesting stories like that in the Indian scriptures which reveal this truth. So, but in Savitri there is a very interesting line toward the end when the boon is being given, book 11. My fiercest masks shall my greatest attractions bring.
Yes.
She has come for that. Even the most dreaded masks, that which the world is afraid of, they are drawn near her. So she accepts it, the challenge, because love is in her heart. So that love, using that door of love, because otherwise it cannot come. So that door of love, using the door of love, it comes, and behind it, death is walking in through the door of love. Now she cannot, she has to accept that challenge, and through this love, she has to, annihilate or transform or convert death. So, one story which is there in Ramayana, people look at it as the victory of good over evil. But all these stories are basically stories of love. So here in Ramayana you have two kinds of love. One is that Rama has for Sita, and the other is Ravana has for Sita. If you see the story. So Ravana's love is, he also knows she is the hub of power. If he didn't know this, he would not assume a form which, because of which Sita would come unarmed. So he assumes a form, and Sita, knowing that there is love in his heart, though it is vicious, dark, she comes with him. That's the other side of the story. It looks like she has gone helplessly. No, she goes because she knows deep within that this fellow has to be converted. And following Sita, Rama comes. So, if you look at the story, it is one of the first stories of the conversion of the Asura. And the Asura does get converted, not fully, but he evolves into the animal humanity. That's how from Asuric to an animal humanity is born. And this is another love which is of Rama for Sita. So these are the two kinds of love. And here in this story we see love comes, but hiding the shadow of death. So when Rama's betrothal takes place, Ravana says, okay, now I have a chance. The gods of destiny conspire. I am going to bring Vishnu to the knees, bringing him to my doorsteps and taking on him. Because he will come. He knows that this is the only trick that will work. Otherwise Rama will not, why would he fight? But he does something which eventually calls Rama. He believes that he can kill him, but in the end finds his annihilation. So the same thing we see here, that love hides behind, or behind love is hidden the shadow of death. Because this is the only way that this can happen. So that's the beautiful expression. Then we have the entire description of what kind of love Savitri has harbored. That probably we can read next time. Love came to her.
We have a little time yet.
Yes.
And I would like to read this entire passage because I believe it is my favorite passage in all of Savitri. Page 15, third line. As in a mystic and dynamic dance, a priestess of immaculate ecstasies, inspired and ruled from truth's revealing vault, moves in some prophet cavern of the gods, a heart of silence in the hands of joy, inhabited with rich creative beats, a body like a parable of dawn that seemed a niche for veiled divinity or golden temple door to things beyond. Immortal rhythms swayed in her time-born steps. Her look, her smile awoke celestial sense, even in earth stuff, and their intense delight poured a supernal beauty on men's lives. A wide self-giving was her native act, a magnanimity as of sea or sky, enveloped with its greatness all that came, and gave a sense as of a greatened world. Her kindly care was a sweet, temperate sun, her high passion a blue heaven's equipoise. As might a soul fly like a hunted bird, escaping with tired wings from a world of storms, and a quiet reach like a remembered breast, in a haven of safety and splendid soft repose, one could drink life back in streams of honey fire, recover the lost habit of happiness, feel her bright nature's glorious ambience, and preen joy in her warmth and colors rule. A deep of compassion, a hushed sanctuary, her inward help unbarred a gate in heaven. Love in her was wider than the universe. The whole world could take refuge in her single heart.
So, just a few words, we will read it again because it's something very powerful. But for today, you need to be very wide, very strong. By nature, somebody who gives, magnanimous, to be governed by truth, sincerity. These are the requirements for true love, because we often use this word, true love. So, we have this mind of wide sincerity. Even though there is passion, there is not that lower movements, turbid wave, ruled by the truth, ruled from truth's revealing vault. Her smile, everything is somebody who gives joy and peace and happiness to everyone, scatters. There is care, that element of care. Kindly care was a sweet, temperate sun. And then, yes, along with that, the sense of security that people felt in her presence.
Yes.
Sense of safety. And then finally that wideness. So these are the ingredients of which wideness, strength. Mother at one place says, only the very strong can truly love. Otherwise you can't hold this flame. That comes later on. Only the very strong can truly love. So we,
Beautiful.
and magnanimity as of sea or sky. Yes. Want and love don't go together. Love by its nature is all about giving.
Giving.
Yes. Okay.
Namaste all. Thank you.
Namaste.